We are here with Jabin Chavez.
A lot of people don't like the Enneagram and whatever, but like we did
love
realize
the Enneagram.
we did realize we're eights.
We love it, even though
And
it's
we-
from the devil.
yeah,
so
yeah. I know.
It's not a pentagram,
Yeah.
I know
people.
I know it opened a portal to the demonic, to Sheol, but
to Sheol.
your greatest strength is your greatest weakness.
Yeah.
Like it's always that,
True.
that two-sided coin. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you've got this weird
out of balance,
gift
Yeah.
that somehow just works, you know?
Yeah.
And it brings all this good. But man, if you don't correct it and you don't,
Right.
you're not
That balance
refining
piece,
your
yeah.
life, and you're not, oh my gosh.
Because you get to the point where like you'll have built the church, it'll be what God said it would be, and then you're still sitting there like, why do I still feel this way? You know, why am I still struggling with these things?
I felt so alone
Yeah.
as a kid.
Right.
I felt
right.
so alone.
Yeah.
Not lonely.
Right.
I felt helpless. I at 40 years old, never said that out
They're
loud.
crazy. And
So then I say it to her and I go, you know,
all right, you starting this or me starting this?
Oh, I don't know. You always started.
I know. I'm like the
Yes,
mule
me
here.
all the time. Yep, you're the workhorse.
I'm like the mule here. Has to,
I give birth.
so-
You have to intro a podcast.
What's that? Oh, I thought you were giving that to somebody. So awesome. Well, welcome to the table. We're glad that you're here. We're doing this thing, having a blast, already. Yeah, well, we're pretty low key on this, Jabin. So we are here with
love
Jabin
it.
Chavez, the man, and
Hey.
he has just preached a lights out message at Zion
Thank
City
you.
Revival, and
So
so we just thought we haven't got enough out of you,
yeah.
out of you.
No, this is great. Oh, I love this.
We
I'm
thought,
wired anyway
what
after
else?
I preach. Better to do
I am-
this.
that's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
I am too. Like, because normally it's a true story. Like in these things, I have to have. If I drink sugar, caffeine, something like that, I get pretty wild in these
Yeah.
podcast stuff. So I'm actually okay though with this.
We should
one,
have
so.
tried the push-up challenge thing this morning before.
I should have. Yeah, we're gonna have to do some
Because
practicing on that deal.
we need
so.
to, yeah. Because this
It
So
didn't
are
morning,
work
you
out so-
pushing her up? Is that
Yeah,
what it is?
so the whole
Yes.
deal
Okay,
is
now I need
like
to see
she
what
lays
this is.
down, but I couldn't get it right. Like she was too far back, and
actually,
and
what
then-
you said was, "There's too much junk in your trunk."
listen,
I believe
don't remember.
were the words that
I
you
don't remember saying
said.
that. No, I said
Yeah,
on
you
this
heard it.
hand.
Yeah.
We got to get the right proportional on the right hand.
I'm gonna have
so,
to Google this.
yeah, yeah. Did you bleep that out? Unnecessary censoring. Good, I appreciate that. But then we flipped it around because I'm right-handed. It's like let's put the sustenance part of you
Wow.
where my strength is, and so you complete me, babe. And so that's
Very intrigued. I'm very intrigued.
Yes.
Go home with Shannon,
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna Google this once I
Babe.
get home,
babe.
and then we're gonna figure this
Babe, listen, all the pastors are doing it.
out. Oh my God, this could go viral.
Yes, that's
So I'm
what it
gonna-
was all
so
about.
I'm gonna grow my
it just
Instagram.
it became a challenge in my mind, and at that point, I was like, "We have got to do this." So I'm literally laying on the floor in the office, like trying to push up my wife, and so
Which you succeeded for
I
the
did
most
actually get
part.
it. I got it. It's just she wouldn't lay still, and
Yeah.
so that
It's
was
my fault. That's what I'm hearing.
It's just different because it's not like you need to be a little stiffer, babe. You need to stiffen it up.
Yeah, it's
stiffen it up.
not just a one. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like it's not that much weight. It's just that it's awkward. So
Thank you. You dug
Light as a
yourself out.
feather.
Light
Yeah.
as a feather. Yes.
So yeah. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Like,
Well, God bless. Make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to share this with a friend. If we've helped your leadership,
if we have
journey.
helped your life in any way, everybody watching, try the push-up challenge with a significant other of some sort. Find somebody you can push up. So, anyways, no, hey, I wanted to talk about what's that?
I'm just,
You're just along for the ride.
yep.
So,
Just try to
what
reel it
I've
back in.
noticed, Jabin, as of late, and even tonight, in your message, it seems like there's maybe there's not, maybe I'm assuming a lot, but it seems like there's a shift that has happened where, and even some of the messages, we kind of did some little bit of a deep reconnaissance on you.
Wow.
Yeah. And not really. We just went to your website.
I love
And
it.
so,
I love it.
but just talking about things like the father woundings,
Yeah.
talking about dealing with your stuff, your trauma, and that's obviously a huge issue. I think
Yep.
even within emotional health,
Right.
within the church, So I'm curious, is there something in your journey that you've been walking through, or are you just making this stuff up? Like, are you reading some Pete Scazzaro books and like, that's some good stuff, you know?
I just saw other podcasts grow by talking about this, and I thought I want to. No, I think turning 40, so a year ago,
Okay.
I turned 40.
Yeah.
I think that was a big moment of just like, where am I?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, it really was.
Really was.
When I was 30, at 39, I was freaking out about turning 40.
Really?
I was very much like, I feel old. I feel, have I done enough?
Wow.
I just started having all this stuff, and I've never felt insecure. I've never felt like, I've never like gone into settings in church where I've always felt talented and like
Sure.
I can
Right.
carry my own.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, all the emotional stuff I really started dealing with.
Really?
Like, okay, where am I?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Am I healthy? Are we healthy? And then I think we started, Shan and I, my wife and I started talking just through things.
Yeah.
And I think we just realized, we're both carrying quite a bit of
Yeah.
like, and not that, people like, a lot of people don't like the Enneagram and whatever, but like we did
love
realize,
the Enneagram.
we did realize we're eights.
We love it, even though
And
it's
we-
from the devil.
yeah,
so,
yeah. I know.
It's
apparently.
not a pentagram.
Yeah.
I know it.
people.
I know it opened a portal to the demonic, to Sheol, but
to Sheol,
it
but it was helpful. So,
but it really helped because
Yeah,
Ah.
that's so funny.
because
Listen,
both
we don't do
eights.
the Enneagram here. This is purely a Vegas thing. No,
yeah. We don't
absolutely
support
do.
it. Well, because we're both eights, so we realize like, okay, well,
How
we're
did
just
you
How
do
did
that?
you do that? That's 'cause
What
he's
in the
an
world?
8, but I'm a 3.
So we're like, we're
So
so wounded.
You're two 8-holes
Yeah.
and we're just
living
and
in
we're
the
just,
same. That is crazy. That is
both
so
have our own
unusual.
offices, both have our
No, that's unusual.
Yeah, no,
Like,
and
It
it's-
really is.
And
do you sit around telling each other like, "I bet you can't do that," and then just challenging each other just to get them to do it?
everything's a fight
Yeah.
on accident. Like everything
So
is a
I mean, for the 8, it's you're either with me or against
Yep.
me. Betrayal,
betrayal's huge.
like trusted. I mean,
Yep.
so like
And we started figuring all that out. We started
Wow.
figuring out everything's like this, everything.
wow,
Just now I could turn it on in front of people to
Right.
like, hey,
Uh-huh.
totally.
because when it eight's super healthy, you become
You're
a
helpful.
2,
You're 2.
Yep.
and then you start
You're
serving.
helpful.
Yep.
And I saw that. I was like, okay, there are moments
Yeah.
Yeah.
where I
just
want to
hear that
be
you
on
feel
the
fulfilled
phone.
and
I want to
helping.
talk
Yeah.
to people.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to,
Want to be
but-
really helpful.
and I want to help and I want to serve. So we just
Wow.
saw all the confrontation at home, but then we started seeing it in church, which was just the first 2 years of church, everything's
For
just
sure.
flying. We
For
went
sure.
literally 0 to 1,000 in 2 years. So it was just kind of like
Right.
no enemies,
You're
no,
just hanging on.
Right.
we're
Yeah.
just having fun. And
Yeah.
then COVID, and then, you start growing and people are coming, people are leaving,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
staff. And we had last year 4 staff members leave in 1 year,
Mm.
which when you're a staff of 18 is a bunch,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Feels like
whoa,
a
this
quarter.
is like, right? Yeah. And it feels like, okay, there's an issue.
Is there something in me that's
Yeah,
creating?
totally.
Yeah.
And I think the answer was yes. The other thing that happened, some were quitting, but I also realized I saw a pattern over
Yes.
the 6 years. Every time I fired someone, they were shocked.
Mm.
Huh.
So what was happening is
Right.
I'm smiling,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
but I'm really,
Yeah,
and then once
frustrated.
an 8, once you cross
Yeah.
the line, you cross the
Yeah,
line. then
you
it's
can't
You're
go
over.
dead
back.
to me.
You can't
So-
go
yeah,
back.
That's
you're
our
dead to
favorite
me.
statement. You're dead to
Yes.
me.
You're dead to me.
Yes.
You're dead. I'll never talk to you again. It's
I've
okay.
never
You're
felt more
deleted, you're
connected
blocked.
to anybody
Yeah.
at this table
Isn't that
than
crazy?
Jabin right now.
Listen,
And most preachers are 3,
Right. So she's a 3.
right? Most preachers are
Yeah.
3. Let's
What
heal
you
right now.
know.
Let's heal. Father, help us.
Jesus.
Lord, we
Take
repent.
away our 8-ness.
We repent of our 8-ness. So, because, we could get into 3 in a second, but most
Oh,
preachers
we
Oh, I don't
will.
need to.
We will.
I'm good.
Bunch of liars.
No, we're fine. We're fine.
Bunch of liars.
Whatever you want me to say.
It's
I'm
all
great.
about
It's
what do you want to see? I can do it. I'm a chameleon. So, anyways, okay.
So I realized, oh man, every person we've ever let go, they've been shocked,
Mm,
which means I'm
right.
loving and whatever until I'm not. And then it's like, hey,
Right.
we're going to let you go.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's always another thing that I noticed. Shout out to all our former staff.
Yeah, we're sorry. It's so funny because I find myself in
New
this-
allegations written
Yeah.
about Jabin Chavez after a podcast. Because it was.
Hey, we grow. We get better.
But that's
Yeah.
what I realized.
Yeah.
And what I would do is go, hey, you obviously don't want to be here, right?
Exactly.
Because you hate me and you hate this church.
Right.
Obviously, that's why you work this way.
Right.
Because I would go to this dark, right? It was never like, hey, let us help coach you.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I would get to the worst kind of possibility.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And then my wife and I, and we actually do, I mean, Goldie, I think in so many ways.
Right. She's going to probably be a
Bless her little
saved
peacemaker.
our
heart.
marriage
she's
in
gonna
so
be a
many ways because we
peacemaker.
were so confrontational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first 10 years of our marriage were not bad,
Right.
but just hot. I mean,
Yeah.
just sparks.
First
constant.
10 years were like the best 6 years of her life.
Just
yeah.
Well, no, it was just
yeah. Yeah, no, it's intense.
fighting and yelling but really deep love, but all that when
Absolutely.
we didn't know what any of this was. Well, then we had Goldie, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to fight in front of her ever again,
Right.
or I'm not going to fight in front of my kid. Period.
Right.
So that she really helped me.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But then we started discovering all this stuff
Uh-huh.
and all this abandonment stuff, and
For
then
sure.
and then we start looking at, okay, well, if we're an 8, where's the wound? And then we found
Right.
the wounds
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is it?
in
that-
our
yeah.
childhood.
So you did your
So I
trauma
just
work?
Okay. So I mean, we'll be really honest.
Yeah.
I have not gone to counseling yet because we've been a little bit afraid of
Sure.
unlocking.
Right.
It's
know what?
messy. It is
That's
really
messy.
messy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
that's like I feel like that's a fairly healthy.
Because I have a lot of
Like
friends who have
counting the
started going to
cost.
counseling,
Right.
and then
It gets
Yeah.
worse before it
They're
gets
It
better.
gets
Yeah.
worse.
and I can't get worse right now. I can't.
So-
I can't afford to get worse.
You're going to have to just deal
I
with
have
my
to get into this
dysfunction for a
building.
little bit longer. Yeah.
No, so
Right, no, I'm with ya.
we've been working on it, talking through it, reading,
Yeah, that's good.
processing. I think
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I have too that I know a lot of guys don't have, and I really have some really, really, really close friends that
Huge.
like
Yeah.
really know me.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Which is uncommon for an
Uncommon.
8.
yeah, very.
Very
But
uncommon.
I
for
think
an
I
8.
just had to force myself to like.
I think
Yeah.
you get to a point of probably desperation where like, I just can't do this. And there's a lot of grace of God in that too, where he just goes like, no, you're going to be, I'm putting people in your life, and you're going to, because with an 8, I mean, like your people are your people. Don't mess with my people.
Mhm.
And so when you have friends or your wife or your daughter, like if you want to see me come uncorked, it's like start messing with my people,
Totally. Yeah,
which
yeah.
is the endearing part of it. Like
Right.
you want them to swing the axe for you.
Yeah, yeah. We're
Not against
fighters.
you.
We'll fight for
Yeah,
you. We'll,
absolutely.
Mhm.
We love deeply, and you're a big teddy bear inside.
Yep.
Very emotional in the sense like you feel it deeply. But what we've learned through life is either there's no place for that. There's no space for that. That's not
Right.
the way to go. Nobody's going to do it for you. You got to do it yourself. And so, yeah, I get that for sure.
So just total survival, like which we've always been. That, just like we're survivors and we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so it's given us an incredible life.
Sure,
We've
exactly.
just
Exactly.
scrapped
You make it
Yeah.
happen.
everything. We're the first of kind of everything in our family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're just the first. But it came with a price as well of, figuring that out. So and one of my best friends is a pastor named Marcus Meekum, who's really educated in all this. And he's an 8. And so he's really helped me navigate
So
a
good.
lot of this
So good.
to help me process my emotions. But all that to say, I started seeing patterns of like, okay, it's good until it's not.
Right.
And then it's over. It's dead.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
dead.
Right.
It isn't.
Right.
So, and then, I mean, it just is,
And
what
there
this
you
is
go.
Oh,
like.
listen, she's lived with it. We
Right.
know it. Like,
And then I think, so the staffing revealed a lot of that. And then I think within our own marriage, just figuring out what, like, I felt like for us, there was no room for an honest mistake,
yeah.
Mm.
right? There was no honest mistake. It was, no, you did that on purpose
Right.
to
Right.
hurt me.
Right.
So we had to like define, okay, you can actually be a human and make
Yes.
mistakes.
Right.
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 So I think all of that, I think you probably heard it in my sermon tonight and other stuff that I've been talking about more lately.
Mm-hmm.
I think just processing that and trying to.
And I think that's so important because we live in a fishbowl kind of world that says, as a pastor, like you're supposed to have gone to Bible college and figured all this out by then, and then you get into ministry and you're whatever 20 something, and
Right,
you're like
right.
you're just that's not true.
Right.
It's just not even real, And I honestly think that when my sort of, and I've shared this even in this venue, is like my kind of like thesis, hypothesis in all of this is that when we don't do this work, and obviously we're not talking about like last night I was doing whatever and cussing a storm, but when we don't share these struggle points in life, then I think we actually create an atmosphere of shame in our churches where people go like, man, Pastor Jabin just got it all together and his marriage is perfect and they never have a struggle, never a problem. What's wrong with me? And then shame sets in. And we know with shame, like that becomes an identity. You go underground with it. And then we don't grow through judgment. We grow through acceptance.
Right.
And so that whole like honest mistake piece is just is huge, so.
Yeah. And one of the things that we're going to start in 2025, and again, it is a little bit of like, okay, we're in this building program. We're in a lot of, we don't want to start ripping off Band-Aids too soon. And then like, so we literally are, but we're going to start working. I won't give his name. I'll give it to you after if you want to use him, but he's a performance coach.
Right.
So
Okay.
he's worked with like high level athletes, generals and a few really, really high level pastors that we would know their names. And, but I think maybe for eights, it feels a little more dignifying. Like he's a performance coach because I'm a high performer.
That's what you tell pastors if you want them to get involved in these things.
Exactly.
Is you say, we're going to coach you in leadership.
Right.
Yeah. Because what it is actually is this.
But he is he's a therapist.
So there's a range. Well, what it is there's the range of, and I think this is where you get in trouble. It's like there's trauma, which is counseling, and then there's development and disciplines, which is coaching. And I think it's the same range where we go into it thinking, and then we did the same thing. We got connected with somebody who we actually knew it because we were in a point where emotionally I was just so like disconnected that my wife looks at me and goes like, I can't do this anymore. Like not like divorce, but like I just can't keep living.
It might have teetered on that.
Like I just can't do this anymore.
I just want to be like really honest.
Right.
Like like I can't keep.
Right. It was at a point of desperation where we were like, I can't keep living this disconnected, emotional. We're just running like crazy. And so.
Because the success won't keep.
Right.
Like it doesn't sustain.
Right.
A marriage.
Right.
Like you can have all of the things, but if there's not honesty and the ability to, because I didn't feel like I could make mistakes.
Vulnerability.
And you tell a 3, you can't make a mistake or I cut you off. Dear God.
Right.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
I think that we got to the point where it's like out of desperation, we're like, and honestly, COVID was a big part of that too, because every metric that you used to use for success was now just gone.
Yep.
And so you're like, okay, now what? And so grace of God, we just like, let's just work on us. And it started much the same way of like, let's read, Townsend's emotional, people fuel and start learning about like language. And I think that's so much a part of it is like, you get pastors like to go into coaching with a little side of trauma work. And it actually enhances their ability to go. Now, I think the other part of it is too, is sometimes people get into counseling is like they're in counseling the rest of their life.
Right.
And I'm like, there has to be a point, I think, where by and large, you get the tools to deal with your trauma. Yep. I think, I don't want to say you don't ever deal with your trauma, but there'll be trigger points. Different, you turn 40, you know what I mean? Something, COVID happens,
you hit menopause.
Right.
That's what happened for me.
Hello.
And you hit these moments.
Yeah.
And then it triggers you back into like, okay, but having language, it's the whole, if you can name it,
and that's the thing. That's the interesting that happened for me too, is first we started figuring out who we were.
Right.
But I couldn't really find the wound.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really find like the trauma because I was like, okay, I wasn't like abused.
Right. No.
I wasn't. But for me, there was definitely some church stuff that came later in my adult life at a former employer. But as a kid, and this happened with my sister, this was so weird. Probably 18 months ago, a year ago, probably 18 months ago. So my sister and I, she's 9 years older than me. So it's my siblings are 10 years, 9 years, and 6 years older than me.
Okay.
And then me. So
Mhm.
So you're kind of a
I'm
firstborn,
a
only child.
firstborn, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
almost.
kind of an only
Absolutely.
child. I've come to find out. I
Yeah.
didn't. So we were talking, and we were just talking about our childhood and whatever. And so she's a twin, so
Yeah.
they're older, and I said it, and I never said this in my life. I'm 40 years old, right?
Mhm.
Like, and I go, I felt so alone
Yeah.
as a kid.
Right.
I
Mhm.
felt
Right.
so alone,
Yeah.
not lonely.
Right.
I felt helpless.
Right.
So my brothers bullied me.
Sure.
Mhm.
Mom and dad are kind of done, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're
Like,
worn out.
and I love them, but yeah, they're worn out.
Yeah.
And mom wants to kind of like,
And
do some new
probably they're helping
things.
raise you. They're probably stepping in, being some of that.
yeah.
Your
That
siblings.
Well, my sister,
right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like there's
Right.
somebody who's kind of helping this because they're
Yeah.
old enough to,
right.
Yeah.
and so mom can kind of go like, okay,
Yeah.
you just take him. You take him where he needs to go, or
But
whatever.
with the brothers element, I was so scared of
right.
them,
Right.
so I just felt alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't tell mom and dad, and you couldn't. Well, I didn't even. At 40 years old, never said that out
Isn't that
loud.
Yeah.
crazy? Isn't
So
it
then I
nuts?
say it to her, and I go, I start bawling, right? Like, oh,
That's so
because you're not,
awesome.
because you don't even know you're carrying
you
all
hit
this.
it,
Yeah.
man.
Well, then you go, oh, well, crap, no wonder I'm an 8
Yeah.
because, and no wonder I'm so defensive, and no
Right.
wonder I'll cut you off.
Well,
and-
your
Yeah.
brain is designed to keep you safe. So you
Yeah.
got to do whatever you got to keep yourself safe.
Yep.
So like, man, if it's to be, it's up to me at this point. I don't have any.
Yep.
I'm alone.
Mhm.
So Jabin as a child is like, I'm alone. I got to figure it out,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
you did.
And you
Right.
did.
And
So,
that's the
Right.
strength
so
of it.
brilliant you,
right,
Right.
but it's not serving you as an
Yep.
adult.
Totally.
It
Those
worked
things
as
that we
a
do
child.
in that,
Yep.
that adaptive child.
Yeah.
That actually, Shannon just called us. Wanted to just get you into counseling. She just wanted to get you
You're
into
like,
counseling
so
tonight.
just
These
so you
cameras are
know.
fake. They're not even real. This is
Shannon,
real.
come on in. Comes in.
He's like,
No, it is, but it is. Yeah, it's crazy that really was like my aha moment of
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
I just felt alone.
Right.
it's huge.
Right.
Then in ministry felt alone, and then I think kind of my ministry DNA, I kind of quite didn't feel like I've ever fit in with certain. So then that kind of created.
Yeah,
there
I mean,
were
we've
just
even had that conversation. I'm
layers
like, I don't
of
know if
that.
I have a tribe. You just kind of
right, and people
you
ask me that all the time, like, "Who's your tribe?"
Right,
I'm
right.
like, I don't really
and
have
you
one.
are
I have a couple
in
of friends, but
candidly
every world,
some
yeah.
crazy places.
Yeah.
You know that God has opened doors and favor, and every time I turn
Mhm.
around, like
Yeah.
Jabin is in this thing,
Yeah,
and you carry it very with humility. That's
Thanks.
that's the beauty
Yeah.
of it. But to have that and still feel
Right.
like I don't know if I really fit anywhere, and I feel alone and that sort of thing.
totally.
So crazy, but yet so real.
Yeah.
That's what we really
But-
battle.
and
with
I think
and
the
go through.
friendships have saved me.
Yeah.
The 3 or 4 guys that I'm really, really close to.
Uh-huh.
But I have thought through that,
yeah,
and I for years trying to find a tribe,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
kind of like,
Right.
and then kind of going like, well, am I supposed to make a tribe?
Yeah.
And
Right.
like, do we have a DNA at our
Mhm.
church that I need to give to other guys? Like,
Mhm.
so I don't. I mean, I'm processing some of that right now, but
Yeah.
like, I have figured that out in the sense of I've at least identified it.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
now
A
I
layer
feel-
of it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And at least now we're trying to
Well,
like,
that is the
Yeah.
we always say name it, claim it, but really it's if you can name it, you can tame
Yep.
it. You can start working on. So like you can say, well, I'm not really in counseling, and I get that. I think because I've seen situations where people go into it, and like it gets really because now. So funny story. I read a book on vacation one time
Oh
that
dear God.
that
Please don't do this. 'Cause
coach
you're going on
has given
vacation
me.
soon.
Unlocked.
Don't read
Unlocked
this.
I
all
read a
the
book,
emotions.
and I'll tell you what the name of the book is if you dare. But
Don't read it
but it's
on
called Running on Empty, and it's a book. Chris is nodding his head because I obviously came back and all of our staff like, don't ever read this book. They're like, I'm going to read that book, And but it's a book about running on empty. And it's this sounds really harsh, and I'm not a big guy on like labeling it because I think you can, but there is some real things that if you can name, you're like, oh, that's probably what happened.
Yep.
And again, much in the same way, I think if your parents, my parents are Christians, they're still married, they're like all of this. But I read this book. We were on a beach somewhere, and I'm like, I'm gonna read this book, and I was so ticked off
Right.
on vacation,
Just tons
so
of fun.
angry.
Yeah,
I'm
sounds like a
having
blast.
these moments of just like. Because I started just like thinking about everything I did as a result of it, and And again, I didn't go off the rails in the sense of like, you don't have to lose your salvation, but I was ticked. Like, I was like, can't believe that. I was just mad. And of course, then that subsides after some time. But the book is called Running on Empty, and it's about childhood emotional neglect.
Yep.
And so what often I think in those environments happens is my parents loved me, and I knew that, and they provided, and they're good people, but probably they did what was done.
Yep. Totally.
And
totally.
they loved me to death.
But it's even like our kids now, like, our kids, the older two, there's like, 4 or 5 years in between. So we kind of have these two sets of kids.
Funny.
And, we are listening in as
funny.
our kids are talking to each other. And
because they tell us this
of kids is telling the younger two, like, you have completely different parents than we had.
Right.
My kids are talking to the younger ones going, your parents are way healthier than our parents were.
Just like, but it's so true.
Right.
But, which
so we decided we're not going to do
grace.
college funds. We're going to do therapy funds.
There you go.
That's what we're doing.
For 4 years.
Which should give you some grace for like, you're going through this, journey for Goldie even.
Yeah, it is really huge. And that's a big part of it is passing it on.
It's super rewarding to feel like our kids are noticing.
Yep.
It is.
That we're trying.
Our kids are like, man, Dad,
that we're doing the work.
Just the way we can give space for it. Like, okay, and it really is doable.
Yeah.
Even as an 8. Because I think sometimes you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, you're wearing me out. But I think that you start getting skills that you can walk through this process.
Yeah, and you start to recognize, I think that's the point of whoever's watching, like as far as personality tests, whatever you decide and whatever you're freaked out about, Enneagram, whatever else. But like at least identifying, I don't walk around going, I'm an 8, I'm an 8, I'm an 8.
Right.
I go around going, okay, that's a trigger point for me. Okay,
these are my
gotta
tendencies.
work on that. Yeah, these are my tendencies.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can be like that.
I can be like this. Okay, that's unhealthy.
Right.
I never want to answer my phone. I never want to talk to anybody. Okay. So I know.
Well, when the 8 is unhealthy, they go to 5.
Yep.
So the investigator.
Yep.
So I always joke about, the overthinker, investigator, all that stuff. I always think about with my kids, I would use this illustration, be like, my kids would come home late. I know it. We got cameras. Like we know exactly what time you walk in. And I'd walk into my kids and be like, what time did you get home last night? You know what I mean? And I'm like, they ought to know if I'm asking. I've told my kids, like, if I ask you a question, I already have the answer because I've investigated and found all the evidence and I know what's going on. I'm going to see if you're going to lie to me. I'm going to see if you're going to betray me right now. And so it's changed my style of just walking in and going like, hey, I noticed you were late last night. What happened? And giving them a chance to go, I was sorry I was late. And it's probably not a big deal, but it just changes even the way you kind of parent this stuff.
Right.
And the way you interact with other people.
So I would say that, and the best thing I've heard about personality tests, there was a woman that was a professor, and she was an organizational psychologist, just brilliant. And she got called into a lot of the high profile ministry failures, guys that, everybody would know their name and we read them in the news and like, oh man. And so she really had a good insight on these sorts of things. And here's what she said about personality profiles. Because there's 5 areas of personality. There's scale. And what they've done is they've just kind of like, well, this is, whether it doesn't matter if it's, Myers-Briggs or if it's the DISC or whatever. She said this, she said, none of them are scientific.
Nope.
There's nothing scientific about any of them. And she said, but they might be helpful.
Right.
She said, they sure seem like they're helpful.
Yep.
And I think if we just take it for that, that's why I don't, when people get all freaked out about it, well, it's from this. And I'm like, but it's helpful. If you can kind of walk away from it and go like, I'm being a little, I'm looking for betrayal right now. I just need, let's, and I think obviously the Holy Spirit helps a ton with that as well. To be able to go, hey, settle, simmer.
Yeah. And I think I grew up in like the peak of 1990s charismatic renewal.
Yeah.
Everything was spiritual.
Oh yeah.
And then realizing like we're spirit, soul, and body. And every part of that matters. And just trying to address.
Paul even writes that all of that would be sanctified.
Yeah, all of it. Yep.
All of it. Your body, your soul, your spirit would be sanctified unto
Peter
the Lord.
Scazzaro has the greatest quote, and he says, you cannot have spiritual maturity without emotional maturity.
Yep.
You can't have spiritual health and
Yep.
without emotional health, and
which is
and
so crazy because we would have said in that era,
just pray about it.
Just pray. Yeah.
yeah,
pray.
you need to read your Bible more, man.
Yep.
You know, if
Yeah.
you're struggling with that, you just need to.
Yep.
You just need, and unfortunately, he makes a good point that it became the Band-Aids we used to try spiritual Band-Aids we used actually became more harmful because we weren't really. Because then people are walking. It's that whole thing. They're walking out going, well, I'm praying harder, and it's still not changing.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think sometimes the Lord is like, yeah, because there's a level of honesty and transparency I'm trying to bring you to with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, even what you said tonight with me, that I'm then going to help you then with others walk this process through.
Yeah. So I had to go there. And I mean, I think that's just been, especially the last year, but I think the 39 turning 40, that freaked me out. And I just was like, okay, what's up here? And then that really started, I think, accelerating it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've gotten a lot of victory and talking about it, processing it, you know, and then taking steps that have, you know,
that's so awesome.
But it's
awesome.
massive. I mean, it's like, and then just the demand of the ministry side is so demanding that I was like, okay, I gotta figure this out before.
I've got to find got to find a way to keep doing this for a while.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I mean?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you get to the point where like, you'll have built the church. It'll be what God said it would be. And then you're still sitting there like, why do I still feel this way?
Yep.
You know, why am I still struggling with these things? And I think a lot of it is even the vices and what we call numbing out and medicating stuff. When we really start dealing with it,
ice cream or whatever
ice cream, maybe ice cream.
That's we do eat ice cream, Jabin.
Half gallons of ice cream at a time.
But it's the thing.
In bed, just
that stuff. Honestly,
leaking all
just
over.
loses. It's the healing loses. There's no necessity for that anymore. It's not even like, oh, I just yes, you overcame, but it's like, yeah, there's a place where I don't need to go there anymore because I don't feel the need to numb out from that hurt and that wound in my life and things like that. And I think that's a huge shift in all of this that happens. But well, I would say this, you know, when you talk about a tribe and a DNA that you would create, that you have, perhaps this health journey is part of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we've got a lot of practice, and you do amazing at some of the stuff. I watch your podcasts and leadership. You do a great job of that. But I think alongside that is this health part that, you know, because you can learn all the skills and the coaching, you know, the disciplines, and be really good and and what we've seen is be a wreck. At the same time.
Yeah, just a mess, which I think is happening more and more as guys have just gotten. You just succeed,
right?
Whatever level.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to a friend the other day. He goes, I'm just so bored. He said, I'm so bored. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I'm just bored.
Wow.
With just ministry. And he's crushing it. But it's kind of like, so what do you do? And it could be bored, but it could be numb, or it could be discouraged, or it could be I've lost my joy, whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like, what a weird moment where it's like, God, I'm winning.
I thought this would be the.
I'm winning, and it's not. And I think, that achiever thing is huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm able now more than ever to kind of disconnect the two, in the sense of like, be on this health journey and then ministries happening.
Sure.
And it's good, and it's, you know, thank God for what's happening, but like this is the real thing.
This is what's happening. Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
I think those over time, I think that's the wrestling match, is just learning to integrate all of that. And you're going to mess it up. Like there's sometimes, like even within our staff, we've had this conversation recently, like, I think maybe we've gone too deep on health. And that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But like there is a job to do. There is, you know what I mean? There is still responsibilities. I know you need a solitude day to get away and be still before the Lord, but you also have these responsibilities. Yep. And we were talking about this even as just a staff. We're like, I think this pendulum can swing back and forth.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to find the balance of this. Like we want to be healthy and effective and bear fruit and healthy and bear fruit, because I think there's this tendency, like we're just results oriented. Oh, we're just like, we just sit around and hug each other, and
right.
And it's like, there's got to be this, you were created for work. You were created to bear fruit. Like that's all part of who we are.
Yeah.
But in a healthy way.
Yeah. And so I think anytime you're having any kind of awakening, you're going to,
for sure.
Yeah.
You probably go a little too far,
whatever it might be.
You're not sure that you're ready. When we started this, like I was just pissed off for a long time. Like just so mad. And it took me a while to like, okay. Like I'm
because
I'm
I think,
okay.
I mean, I don't want to share your stuff, but like a lot of Dana's was women in ministry. Yep. How you're treated most often in ministry. So here she is leading in a church and still fighting some of the misogynistic, chauvinistic ideals out there.
When you stand up to preach and you see a man get up and walk out simply because
right.
I'm a woman.
But it kind of reiterates, it's a trigger point. And so you have to stay in the spirit.
So then I threw the mic down and just walked out.
Right.
You preach, sir.
Sit down, But it's just one of those things you walk through it, but it can still get. But the beauty is, I think God gives you somebody like in Shannon who's in the same journey with you, who can start holding space for that. And like, I get it. That really sucks that you had to go through that, or they got up and left.
And my group that I go to.
But as an 8, the problem is you want to go clobber the guy.
Yep, totally. No,
you're like, I'll take care of him.
Yeah. I want you to die. That's all I want.
I'll go beat you. I'm going to pop your tires, So.
We're sick.
Yeah. We need a lot of help. But we get stuff done.
You do get stuff done.
That's the stuff.
Yes.
When you want to get stuff done.
Right. That's the thing.
Call the 8.
Yep.
Or make her happen. You know what I mean? They'll take on the challenge. That's awesome. And I think that's an amazing journey to be on. And probably, I think it's what the Lord's doing, honestly, in this era.
I think.
There are different eras that God, brings out, the Jensen Franklins and fasting and the different ones like that. There's the Benny Hinns who bring a Holy Spirit sort of, awareness and good morning, Holy Spirit, and these different seasons. And not that any of them are perfect or have everything together, but like, then there's a season where like God is dealing with
feels like
some health. Like,
well, and I mean, we're watching it, right? I mean, we're watching all the catastrophic failures going, okay, we've got to figure this out. And I think the 40s is huge for my experience, and what I've seen is guys who grind in their 20s and 30s. I mean, they just grind. Then they get their 40s and it's like, church is good, money's good.
Yeah.
Got some authority and got some power and got some
your earning potential's there now. Your best years are ahead of you.
And you're doing books and you got money coming in, and then you just, because you never dealt with the stuff.
But good news, once you deal with the stuff, your 50s,
let's go. No,
best era ever.
Yeah. No, but that's what I'm like. I was like, God, all of my friends fell in their early 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a pastor named Gerald Brooks who did a whole research on like pastors who fell, and the most common age is 43.
You know what? Wow. It's so interesting you say that, because in that same study, in that same class I took, there is a U curve, a bend, and when you are most unhappy in life was between like 43 to 45.
Wow. Yep.
And they said, because it's I just psychologically, that's so interesting. I didn't even think about that until you said that. But like, I showed it to our staff. I was like, your level of happiness is at its worst in that age of your life, in theory. I mean, Christian, non-Christian alike, and that sounds like really daunting. Because sorry, Jabin, that you're 41.
Here you go, 41.
He just turned 41. The next couple of years are gonna be rough.
Yeah.
Just hang on, buddy.
But I think I've witnessed enough to be like, okay, I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Fast.
Well, and that awareness is massive because you don't get caught off guard with it.
Right. Because all the other stuff happened. I got the book deal, and I got the church, and I got the building, and I got the car, and we got our house, and we then I'm like, there's still weird stuff happening in me. that I
Well, and
can't
the
pray
crisis,
away.
the
I
identity,
feel pretty good spiritually. Like,
right. The 20s crisis, identity. 30s crisis is roles. You know, now you figure out how to be a pastor and a dad and a husband and all these things. 40, they say, is character, which is who we are. It's like, who am I really? Wholeness, integrity is our wholeness.
Yeah.
And it is the crisis we have to navigate, you know. And then, unfortunately, what we do is we think about legacy, you know, in our 50s and 60s when we should be thinking about it in our 40s and 30s, going like, what am I going to leave behind? What's Goldie? What are my kids going to?
Right.
What kind of trauma and therapy will they need?
Yep.
You know,
Totally,
you know.
yeah.
And there's
they will need
and here's
some.
the thing: you can be the best parent on the planet,
Yeah.
because it's not even really about what happens; it's about what we believe about what happens.
Yep.
You know, it's those ideas. I feel alone. You probably had more adult help than most in reality.
Yep.
But you believe like, I'm alone, man. There's and that's the challenge we have. But it's interesting about that struggle of age. I was thinking also about this, talking about moral failures. One of the things, that boredom, one of the things, again, the same professor who's walked in, she said, whenever you are untouchable, when you become the leader, and I think that happens when you've been successful, people are like, oh, man of God, we just do whatever he says. When you become untouchable and you're still struggling, and so then you start feeling a sense of almost victimization, to where she said you start saying things like this, and she actually went through and quoted studies of major figures who'd fallen, and they started saying things like, nobody knows what I go through.
Yep.
Nobody knows what I have to go through, what I have to deal with. Nobody knows what it's like to be me. And then that turns into, well, my life is so hard, I deserve a treat. And that might be money or sex, or it might be whatever. But they start convincing themselves like, my life is really hard. And then you add a spiritual component for pastors into that kind of deal, where they're like, look how God has used me, and they start believing they're above this. And then all of a sudden there's this thing of like, well, I just probably deserve, you know, I deserve something. And it's really that running away from the pain that they haven't dealt with.
Self-pity is my number one. If I'm at my lowest, it's that. It's nobody knows. I paid such a price.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then I have to snap out of it.
Well, I'm sure Shannon's there to be like, get your butt up.
You freaking loser. No, but you know.
Yeah, there's some of that.
And you have to break out of like, oh, no, this is so good, and God's been so good.
Part of that, I think the grace of God even. You're an 8, she's an 8. You talk to people how you are talked to typically. So probably that strength that she brings to it, you're like, okay, I hear you. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
Like, I get you. Okay, you're right. I get it. Like, you know, it's like, you know, her best heart for you, and she's going to just tell you straight. And that's what we need, because that's how we're going to talk to people. Like, and just be like, hey, listen, can I tell you something? You're annoying me right now.
And but it is crazy of guys that I've witnessed. They take on kind of a hero victim. I'm the hero, but because of that, I'm the victim, and I need relief, and my wife's crazy, or you know, or whatever. And she's, you know, like, I've been doing all this, and we're fighting at home, and she's not really with me, and then they just start telling themselves like, well, then I just deserve, and she literally said, I deserve a treat, and then they go do something just catastrophic, destroy, you know, their ministry, disqualify themselves, and give just the whole cause of Christ this kind of black eye in some regard for the world. And it was just amazing to sit and watch and listen to her talk about this spiritually healthy leadership, but her biggest encouragement to us was like, don't be untouchable. Somebody has to be able to tell you no. Totally.
Somebody has to look at you and go, nope, you can't do that, you know. And if you can keep those boundaries in your life, friends, spouses, leaders, elders, whoever it might be, probably all of them on some level, to where you're safe.
Well, not a lot of spouses. Just the one.
Just the one.
Yeah, well,
just the one.
Hopefully, he's from Vegas, not Utah, so I was assuming
the higher north you go, it starts getting weird.
It's a little broad in its definition.
It's north, south. I
was
can't
talking
remember.
about all of our spouses, not all of Jabin's spouses.
Well, I remember Erwin McManus saying that your greatest strength is your greatest weakness.
Yeah.
Like it's always that
true.
That two-sided coin. And so you've got this weird
balance,
gift that somehow just works, you know? And it brings all this good. But man, if you don't correct it and you don't
Right.
You're not
That balance
refining
piece,
your life, and you're not. Oh my gosh, it's just
so good.
It's so dangerous.
important.
But yeah,
That's awesome.
so it's heavy. But that's
I feel a little like
sorry.
I felt so excited after church, and now I just feel like
We were preaching about joy, but oops.
yeah.
But it is. I mean, it goes back to it's like you're wrestling through it, you're processing it,
Yeah.
but I feel better than I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And yet, I'm still on a journey of,
It's funny, you made jokes about being in shape and all this stuff like that. And for us, the byproduct of dealing with the emotional health part of us, it just gave way to like.
There's a great book called The Body Keeps Score that, I mean, like scientifically, your body, when you don't deal with the trauma side of things,
totally,
your body has to store that somewhere.
Right.
And it can come out in sickness or whatever.
It was really amazing. I mean, we changed our eating habits, but I think even that was probably part of that whole.
It was menopause. Sorry. It just is what it is.
That was the trigger point. So.
I asked Stephen Furtick if you remember, like, when he first started ministry, he was like tiny, skinny, now he's all jacked.
Now he's the Hulk,
He's the Hulk.
Yeah.
I said, why'd you do that?
I just kidding. No roids at all. None.
Just a joke.
Forgive me, Stephen. You don't know me, and Jabin's I'm not even friends with him. So
I want to apologize for him saying that. I asked him, I said, why? I said, why'd you get in shape?
Right.
And and this was like in a public setting, we were doing a Q&A, and he said, because for that hour and a half in the gym and the food, I'm in control. And he goes, it just gives me a little sense of control, and like a million things could be going out of control, but I'm in control of that hour and a half in the gym that I decide, and it's me, and I decide what I eat. And it gives me some order. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I actually, I think he's a 5. I can't remember now.
Yeah. Which is unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, for a pastor of a church like that. Right. I mean,
he's such an artist.
True. Maybe probably a 4. There's probably a bit of a 4 in that, like the wing to a 4.
Yeah.
Because it's very the creative, artistic type person, special.
Sorry, I'm like claiming your Enneagram. I don't actually know. But it is. I think it is 4 or 5. We'll like send him a clip. You okay with it? But I'm
tagging him on all this stuff. I mean, not my roids comment, but we're gonna cut that out.
But he said, but he was like, but it gives me something to like, okay.
Yeah. No, that's good.
I'm out of control.
Having a place, man.
There's a lot that's out of my control, but this is in my
And
it's been a huge thing for him. So that's an interesting.
It was interesting to watch. We made decisions and all that, but like how much it just changed. Like your body just kind of like can breathe.
Yeah.
And then we started doing things with it. Like that was when started running, started doing these things, and it was just
had a ton of energy, and because you're not
it changes
carrying.
Your mind is not preoccupied with that. It's funny because it's just like that under the surface thing that you really don't know it's there. It shows up every once in a while, and then when you start unpacking this stuff, man, it's such a good thing. I encourage people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
but you don't have to start running.
Yeah. No, you don't have to do that at all.
I did a half marathon, then quit. I was like, this is dumb.
Unbelievable. But you've been doing
marathons.
This is
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually getting ready to run the Big Bear in California next.
Up in the
month.
elevation. Look at
November.
So it's a fast marathon. It's downhill. So
it is. Okay.
Yeah. So
I was
that's the
say,
reason
wow,
you do
there's
it.
a lot of
He runs
elevation,
it in wheelies.
But
those Heelys.
I'm wearing Heelys
wearing
instead
Heelys.
of tennis shoes. But
all the way down.
This is my shot to get I'm working on my Boston qualifier. So
sick.
Yeah,
okay.
I've gone from hitting my goals to like now I'm gonna try to.
So you have to have so many, right? Before
no, you have to have it just time wise. You got to. It is based off your age, and so you got to hit a certain time frame, and then if you get in it, you can get in it, and it's I don't know if I'll get it this time, but I'm like, hey, why not? Let's do something, just for funsies.
No, I love that.
Yeah,
and you do have to have fun. I think that's another. We're probably done, but I'll just say. I have gotten obsessed with golf.
Yeah.
But it's been so good for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's play.
Yeah.
It's what it really is.
And what I realized, because I was a worship leader musician first and then a preacher, and then music became my hobby.
Right.
But not really, because it still felt like work, and it felt like church, and it
part
felt
of
like
that.
yeah. And then I'm always kind of under the pressure to write another song for church. So then music became
right.
So I've had to just go, music's work. Music is not a hobby.
Right.
Yeah.
It's creative, but it's work. It's a creative part of my work.
Yeah.
Golf is
just
totally
just play.
Yeah. Out in left field. Nothing to do with church, nothing to do with. So I do think, as another side of this whole thing is like figuring out how to play.
Well, I think eights probably don't do well. There's probably, and I think threes either probably don't do well with, because there's the achiever in you.
Yep.
Don't do well because you feel lazy. Like, I should be working on this. I should be doing this. And so you actually, but it was funny. I actually saw the lady who kind of got us started in this whole journey as a counselor. She make this statement. She said, what a harsh world demands is play. And it really hit me. I sat down with her. I sat down with Dave just like a couple days ago. And I was like, babe, I just need to start playing more. Like and honestly, what that meant was like, we're just going to go to dinner and just laugh and talk. Like, just again, that place where we just set aside and we can just control, like, we're not going to let everything else crowd in on it and just enjoy it. So for me, some of that is running, because it's a challenge. It's a place. It's I don't know if it's play yet, but it's a challenge for sure. But I think having a play place where you just,
right,
just enjoy life,
and just mind off of.
Don't have to please anybody. We're just having fun. It was interesting. We ran in that same situation where Sunday nights, I don't know how this is for you, but for me, Sunday nights were the worst of the week for me, because I would preach all day, be worn out, tired. And then my mind that night, I was like, we talked about
that.
The filter went down. Like, I didn't see so-and-so. Where's so-and-so? Oh, that problem. We didn't fix this.
Right.
And it was just horrible for me. And so I was like, you know what, babe? I just want to get a group of people that people we really like, and just go out and just have dinner with them, hang out, just laugh. No work-based spiritual. I'm not going to be a pastor, but I'm just going to go and hang out. And it created play.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next day, Monday morning, I used to wake up like just still in the funk, and I'd go into work in a funk, because I go in on Monday because being alone all day was not good for me. I had to realize, like, even if I have low work demands, just being around the people, I would warm up through the day. And by having a play date on Sunday nights, then Monday morning I'd wake up and I was out of that funk, and I could go in and enjoy
and not be grumpy.
Not be grumpy.
Yeah, well, that happened for me, where I'd preach, go home, eat, crash, wake up in a fog, eat again, up late because I slept too long, and then I'm off Monday. So what I do now is I preach that fourth service, and it doesn't make sense, but it works.
It works for you.
Get in the car, drive immediately to the golf club, and play 9 holes.
Yeah.
And so Goldie and Shan go home.
It's awesome.
They have lunch.
Just to decompress.
I go play 9 holes. I'm done by 5, home, and then we have family dinner, and then I'm in bed by 9 or 10 because I didn't nap and ruin
tired.
And then I'm up Monday and I'm okay.
Yeah.
And so it's like you figure out.
Yeah.
So for me, that works. And I usually just walk on alone and play 9 holes alone. Sometimes I'll invite friends that I trust and like, hey, let's go.
Guys you want to be around.
Yeah, that I want to be around. But either way, so it's like something as weird as that.
Yeah.
Where it was go home, eat, lay in bed, kind of looking at my phone, kind of depressed.
Sure.
Fall asleep, wake up, like.
So crazy.
So it's
so wild. And then that whole effect of social media too, I think, is another piece of this, of comparisons and all these other things that just is compounding these issues, for probably everybody, not just preachers, not just pastors, but that sort of thing. So awesome, man.
Yep. Well, thank
you for hanging out with us and just going there with us.
Loved it.
Like, poor guy just preached the whole message and like, tell us about your deepest wounds, Jabin.
Like you did say trauma in your sermon. Let's go.
Well,
tell me your darkest secret.
It was the whole thing, because I was noticing like, he's talking father wounds. He's talking about this and all of that. I thought there's something going on in Jabin Chavez that God's doing something. So I encourage you, man. That's awesome. I love to hear that. And actually, 40s can be great, and 50s are even better.
Come on.
50s are even better. John Bevere sat with me one time, and I was turning 50, and I was having 50 was when I kind of started like, oh, dear Lord. I thought Jesus would have come back by now. And
You're supposed to,
like, I'm never supposed to make it past 88. And so, but he looked at me and he said, hey, man, your 50s is the best generation. And I was like, really? I was like, all right, then. So he spoke it, I think, prophetically maybe, but good stuff. So, man, it was good talking with you. Great having you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love
and
tonight.
we'll make sure we'll throw your podcast, your leadership podcast up there so people can check it out and
check it out.
connect with City Lights in Las Vegas. City Light, no S.
City Light.
Yes, City Light.
Unless you're Mexican like me, then it's City Lights. That's how we say.
It's all good. We know what you're talking about. We'll make sure those are up there so people can find you, and tons of great content, tons of great messages.
Yeah.
Just a great church. If you're around Las Vegas, it's the place to be for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a great church, and I'm gonna come visit when you guys get in your new building. We're
yes.
And actually, Jabin was the first guy. He was so kind to us. We went to Vegas, Dana and I, and he got us tickets to Ka.
Is that right?
You did. Yes.
Oh.
You were the guy that introduced us to the shows at, or your secretary did, I guess. Apparently,
no. I love hearing stories like that because guys always tell me you did.
He's like, I did that.
Really?
I was like, oh, my assistant did it. So
no,
Shannon.
I just am in.
No, it was such a generous.
I'm in so much trauma. I don't remember all those.
We had no clue even what to do, but we like good restaurants, and you were like. You're like, dude, you got to see this show. And you sent his tickets to us. And I was like, my goodness, this guy is so
That's cool.
Amazing. So you've always been such a good guy, good friend. So
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hope you've enjoyed time together, and you can like and share and check Jabin out. And it's going to be some good stuff. So we'll see you soon.